everyone. Thank you for joining today. I have amazing makeup artist from Calgary, Mariam Akbar. We've worked with each other million times, I think maybe even more. And I'm super excited for this interview for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think that makeup is, it's a big part of photography, and especially the stuff what I do. And yeah, I'm super excited because I have so many questions for you, and I think the people who will be watching this podcast and this video, they're also interested to hearing some of this feedback from makeup artists, someone who've been in this industry for so many years. And the first question what I have to you, I know you've been in this industry for many years, and a lot of my like fellow photographers are always asking me like how and where we can find good makeup artists. It's like any other industry, there is so many makeup artists out there, and even like based on my own experience, you can get someone who is really good and you can get someone who is average, or you can get someone who can completely ruin your work and basically take the quality of the final product way down. So what would be the kind of things we should look for whenever we are trying to find and hire makeup artists?
Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here too. And to, photography, makeup, they go hand in hand. We've talked about this a million times.
Yes.
Like it's definitely like a partnership. It's almost like, I don't know, it just, without one, the other one just isn't as powerful. So I think that photography, makeup, it's a very kind of special relationship. And I think when photographers are looking for makeup artists, I think social media is kind of where it's at now. So, I believe you can really gauge a person's quality of work, from their page. I think that you could tell someone that's just beginning with someone that's a little bit more experienced. So I think the quality of the work is going to show in their pictures. And I think that, sometimes you just don't know. And sometimes you really you have to try, you have to, like anything in life, that's kind of like trial and error. And I will say that it has to, like a partnership has to go far beyond a person's, talents. I'm sure you would agree that, when you're working with people that are like-minded, there's like a really good flow, good
Absolutely.
energy. It just feels better. So I think that people, photographers, makeup artists, whoever, when you're looking for someone to do a job, think past that job. Don't just think of the job at hand. Think about, forming a partnership, because you grow so well together when, you have people aligned in your circle.
Okay. So let's say we're looking at someone's page, right? And we know that sometimes those images, they're altered or retouched and stuff like that. So what kind of qualities, in your opinion, we should look for, right? Because the makeup application, in my opinion, is crucial for headshot photography, for any type of photography, especially when we're photographing people. But, what kind of things we should look for? So let's say, there's different types of makeup, right? Sometimes we see, someone needs very light makeup. Sometimes we see something very, very heavy. So how we can kind of judge, okay, this person, let's say they know exactly what they're doing, or against people who we can look at their work and we can say, hey, you know what, the work is not developed yet, the style is not there, and the person who is doing the makeup still needs to lots to learn. I'm going to try to kind of go a little bit more into the rabbit hole with this, because that's always was fascinating me.
It's so great. I think that there's also so many aspects to this. As great as social media is to network and to find people that, you want to align with and work with and grow together, you bring up such a valid point in terms of, well, some work is, retouched. Sometimes there's filters. Sometimes it's overly edited. And I think that, when you look at something, I think most people will know if it's like more raw or if it's overly, edited. A great way to see if someone is going to align with kind of your style or what you want is definitely in videos.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times now you'll see, makeup artists posting more videos because I think that there was a point when they were being kind of challenged in a
Mm-hmm.
sense of like, we know that you can do all this stuff to make it look that much better. So if it's a video, it's definitely going to be more raw footage. What you want is you want to be able to look at a picture and you want to feel like the person still looks like themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's not overly done and that things are well blended. So any harsh lines, if we were to get technical with makeup, any harsh lines you see, it's not, you need like a light hand and you need things to be like blended. So you don't really know where like one starts and one finishes in terms of
Mm-hmm.
like color.
Yeah, that's a good tip. So I'm gonna kind of go
Yeah.
back a little bit with the question, and I'm gonna ask you why makeup is so important. Because this is the question what I'm getting also from photographers and from the clients. And then you probably witnessed this a million times. A lot of clients ask like, oh, I don't do makeup on a daily basis. Why for my headshot I need the makeup? So I would like to kind of I would like to kind of hear your feedback on it. What the feedback can bring to the table for the client.
Oh my God. Not just because I do makeup, you guys, I cannot emphasize the importance of a polished look, especially when you're doing headshots for business. Everything matters.
Yes.
Your hair matters, your makeup matters, what you're wearing matters, your demeanor matters, and your manners matter. So basically, when someone wants to hire you, if you're taking headshots, humans were naturally drawn to things that look polished and clean. We're going to trust in someone that looks polished and put together, that this person is going to take whatever task we need at hand. They're going to be able to professionally kind of see it through. It's just the way we operate. You're not going to have as much trust in someone that doesn't seem polished. It's almost like it's not credible, like they don't take their job seriously, or they don't maybe respect their clients enough to really like show up for them in a sense. So if I'm scrolling on social media, instantly, like I can right away tell from a picture if it's professional makeup or not. It's just a different kind of finish. And I think that people are scared because, they want to look like themselves. They want that picture on the website to be the same person that shows up to the client's house. So the client's like, not like, who the heck are you?
Yeah.
You want to look the same. And I think that that's something that people are always worried about. Like, I'm taking these headshots, I'm going to put them on my business card, on my social media pages, but I want it to be me so that on a daily, when I don't have you, Mariam, doing my makeup, and I'm going to, sell a house and I'm meeting this client, that I'm going to arrive and it's still going to be me. So I think that that's a concern of people when it does come down to getting makeup done. Is it going to change them so much for their business? And my advice to that is open communication. When you're going to get, like, even if I was coming to get a picture done by you, and it's like, okay, this is what I envision, this is what I want the vibe to be, then you're going to know, and together we'll get there. Same as makeup. They come and they tell me, I want to be really fresh. I want to still look like me, but I really love a bright lip. I'm known for a bright lip. All of these things matter, and together we'll get there.
Yeah. So how do you justify this from the makeup artist perspective? Because I've been in many situations on many of my shoots where the makeup artist has a different vision than the client, right? And sometimes, as you said, you need to find somehow this kind of happy medium where the client is happy and the makeup artist also is happy with the end results. And I know, like, this is one thing what I really love about your work, and then we've done so many shoots together where I could really see that you communicating well with the client, and you push on some of those shoots where it had to be pushed, but we had some photo shoots where we work with young person, and you just did really, really light, where just kind of enhance some of those features of their faces, right? So if you could just give me a little bit of kind of like rundown how, like, you coming to, let's say, the session or the photo shoot, and you justify, okay, this is the person, how I'm gonna kind of make this work.
Yeah. open communication is key. I think that it comes with years of experience as well. I mean, you start off with open communication regardless of how long you've been doing makeup. I think that when an artist first starts doing makeup artistry, they perceive asking questions to the client as the client taking it, but they don't know what they're doing. This is a very common thing. So it's like, well, no, I don't know what to do. And I want to ask my client, what does she want to have done? But if I ask her, is she going to think that I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know my job? So I'm not going to ask her. It's the biggest mistake that you can make. People love when they feel, first of all, it's an opportunity for you to have, a little bit of like breaking the ice before the makeup appointment, where you just have, a couple of minutes of chatting with your client, see what their lifestyle is and what they want. That is key. And then I think that you're not going to win every time. To your point, sometimes the makeup artist has a vision and the client has a vision, and we're not going to always win. I've had clients that have done the exact same lip color for 20 years. This is the lip color that they use, and this is what they want. It's their safe place. As soon as I take that color away, they're going to feel naked, like vulnerable. It's just a small example, but basically, I'm not going to win in this argument where I'm like, maybe you should go for something lighter or darker or whatever. This is her color. This is what she loves. This is what she wants. And there's cases where I'm going to be very honest. You just have to, gently advise. But if it's a client is really set on doing something, you got to just give it to them and work the rest of the makeup to make that one thing work.
Okay. Cool. So my next question is about makeup for young people versus makeup for, let's say, a little bit older people. Because sometimes what I see, young people, they just push into the limit, right? And they want to have the makeup just way overdone. And then you have the older people who they don't want to make up at all, right? They just completely, they want to avoid this. So my question to you is like, if you could just kind of tell me a little bit about, as I said, like, makeup for younger people and makeup for older people, because this is one of the biggest challenges what I have, during my sessions, that there's a different types of makeup for those. Let's say the older you get, you have to kind of have different application just to kind of, cover some of those things which we don't want to actually see, and how we can convince those young people that they don't really need much makeup. They have natural beauty. The skin is healthy. They just need a little bit of touch-ups here and there, and they're good to go.
Yeah, great question. I think it also ties with your question just before this. It's like basically it's like how do you know? How do you know what to do on your clients? How do you know how to deal with it if there's a situation where you want something and they want something? How do you deal with a client that's young versus a client that's more mature? And first and foremost, I will say that be a little bit forgiving to yourself. Experience is the best teacher. So with time, you're going to learn what you need to do on the client, how to best communicate, how to best advise. And I feel like we actually, honestly, if I was to just reflect on my clients now, I feel like we live in a world where everyone is really leaning more towards that kind of effortless natural beauty. So I would say a few years ago, I think the younger kids definitely packed it on a lot more. But right now we're living in a world where even they are like, I don't really wear a lot of makeup, or I don't want a lot. And for the most part, all across the board, I feel like people are really embracing this natural kind of way to be, where it's there, but it's not.
So,
and there are certain things that like more youthful people can get away with than adults. But again, for the most part, it's like I think everyone kind of knows their zone. Like it's very rare that you're gonna get a more mature lady saying, like, I want bright eyeshadow or whatever. It's like you kind of past that phase. So yeah, and young kids, honestly, yeah, for the most part, the ones that I've been doing, whether for grad makeup or whatever, they are liking more of the natural thing, which is great.
So my next question is, and this is mostly from like a photography perspective and photographer, and I had this situations many times, especially for headshot photography, people with really bad skin, they're coming and then you can see the skin is unhealthy. There's people who are not really looking after themselves when it comes to kind of having the skin the way it should be. So what would you recommend postponed the photo shoot and kind of give them some advice to just bring the skin to like some kind of decent quality, or with the today's, I would say, I don't know, makeup applications, you're able to pretty much just cover everything.
Yeah, I think that with photography, it's a little bit more forgiving because of post and then the editing process. So I think that between, myself as a makeup artist and you as the photographer, for example, if we have a client that has, not really good skin, I think that with both of our capabilities, we'll be able to get the picture to a point where it's like really good. I always emphasize taking good care of your skin. As a makeup artist, I know the importance of that. My makeup isn't going to look as good on someone that doesn't take good care of their skin. So a common mistake that people make is they think that instead of just taking care of their skin, they'll just cover up the problems and make them go away.
Yeah.
You have to treat it. So I believe in the investment of taking care of your skin because I'd rather be proactive than reactive. Instead of waiting for it to get bad, just do a little bit every day. And I mean, we're talking about things that we can control. There's skin conditions that we can't control that are hormonal. And that's just something that the client, whether they wait for the photo shoot or not, they have problem skin. It's a hormonal thing that they're working very closely with a dermatologist or whatnot to correct. But I think that it is important to educate people on the importance of clean skin.
So following that question is, again, from the photographer perspective, what should I say to, let's say, my client to prepare their skin and their face for the photo shoot? And I'm not talking about any type of makeup application or anything like that. But I've heard, for example, drinking water before the shoot just to kind of get the skin a little bit like moisturized and stuff. Is there any specific, I would say, things you can do prior to shoot, let's say week before, so you can kind of prepare yourself for the session and kind of get the skin at least to some kind of decent level?
Yeah, I think that for me, whether it's I'm doing, anytime I have a makeup client, or you're going to have a client that's going to come take pictures, I think it is important to educate them on getting prepared for the shoot. And one of the ways they get prepared is through their skin. So I always actually advise that they get a facial, especially for my brides. It's just really important. You get rid of that dullness, you get rid of the dead skin, any problem areas that you have. And if it's a week before, then your skin has time to heal. Water is number one. So when you say I've heard they drink water, it is so important. It's so important. That hydration is going to give you more of that plumpness. It's not going to be as dull. So getting a facial a week before, water, having a good skincare routine, just advising to your clients, just make sure that you're exfoliating and moisturizing your skin before your shoot. Just because it does make a huge difference in the overall picture. So now I'm going to kind of switch the gear a little bit and talk about those harsh clients who are never happy, and then you do your best, and then we've all had those in our career. That's right.
And I think that's also kind of the same applies for the photography, but also for the makeup, right? So it's I had situations where the start off was the person was not happy with the makeup, then with the photos. How you deal with those type of situations where you finish your product, you think based on your experiences, this whole thing looks flawless, looks good, but the person doesn't like it for whatever reason?
Honestly, that is such a great question. It's a question that's always asked. Anytime people find out that I'm a makeup artist, they're like, tell us about your worst client. What was the worst experience you've ever had? It's a very popular question. Again, I want to go back to my point about being proactive rather than reactive. I can't stress enough the consultation period or the communication period before working with someone. I think that the 5 minutes that's going to take is going to really help to relieve a lot of problems, because it's a better understanding of what your client wants. That being said, we do that all the time with our clients, and we try to be as proactive as possible. But in the end, there might still be, well, I'm not happy with this, or I'm not happy with that. There's different people for this. So you have there's not just one answer, because it really depends on the person. Sometimes personal preference, where again, like the example that I gave about the lady that wore the same lipstick color for 20 years, for example. Makeup is a personal preference. How someone looks in their photos is a personal preference. So there's things that that you do and it looks really good and you think that it looks good and you're very happy with your work, and then they might look in the mirror and not be happy with it. It's because it's a personal preference. They're either not used to it, they're not used to it, they've been doing it the same way for a long time, so there's that. And then the other people are the people that will never be satisfied no matter what. So the first group is a person that it just has a personal preference to something. So it's nothing against your work. It's not that they don't like the quality of your work or how you do it. It's that they just prefer a way. And they're nice. And then you have the people, no matter what you do, they are going to be unsatisfied. I used to lose sleep over these people because I always felt sabotaged. I always felt that I failed, that I did something wrong, that I wasn't good at my job. I wasn't good at, knowing what to do. Years of experience has taught me that it's not a me problem at this point. It's a them problem.
So did you have situations where, and I think when it comes to, let's say, the wedding makeup, I think most of makeup artists do those like a pre-trial thing where they just test them, right? And I think that's fantastic because then you can really figure it out if the person likes it or what kind of adjustment you can make and all this stuff. But with the photo shoots and headshots, it's like a one deal thing, right? You come in, they do the makeup, and then you have to somehow deal with the situation afterwards. But did you have a situation in your career where you actually just, I'm not saying refuse, but said no to the client because you knew this is going to be the most challenging person in my life and doesn't matter what I do, the person is not going to be happy?
No, I've never said no. I'm very, very understanding and very easygoing and too patient for my own good. So for me, I work very hard to get the client to a place where they're feeling comfortable. I care so much about the client that at the end of the day, I want to work on these issues that they're having, even if it goes deeper than the makeup, which a lot of times it is a deeper issue. So a lot of times they joke about us being almost like psychologists or counselors or whatever. Because you're with your client for an hour and there's you're dealing with someone's insecurities. So I really invest a lot of time into getting there. At the end of the day, sometimes a session may end and you may feel like it's not 100% what it needs to be. Like you either get the vibe from the client where they're just going to settle and they're just like, they're kind of, tired and they don't want to give you a hard time, but maybe they're not 100% happy. And a lot of times you try and then it just gets to a point where you just both kind of surrender and accept it, if that makes sense.
And I think, it has 100% sense. And I think that even when it comes to photography, I found whenever I'm shooting, this whole thing kind of comes out from the person, right? Because as you said, they might not be happy about, the makeup, but there's some baggage with them, which, some issues with the family, or they have some insecurities, or there's a million other things which kind of they have to carry with them. And they maybe not try to dump us on you, but sometimes I feel like, especially when you do, let's say, headshots where it's like very, very personal and these people kind of see themselves and then it's like, okay, this is me, I'm getting older, whatever. Plus I have all these situations in my life which are not, happy, or there's some problems or issues or whatever, then this whole thing kind of explodes, right? I completely hear what you're saying, and I'm going through the same experiences for sure.
Agreed. And I think in the beauty, like in all of our industries, in a lot of industries, this is an issue. So that I think, most things are a lot deeper than we think. And I think that our jobs are difficult because we deal with someone on such an intimate level that you're dealing with their most extreme insecurities. Like with your headshots, to your point, when you're saying, I get close, it's personal. They're going to see every little thing. If they got older, there's 3 more wrinkles on the right eye, it's difficult. And I think that that's why some people just aren't successful in what we do, because it isn't just about taking the picture. It isn't just about applying the eyeliner. There's a deeper job that we have to do. You know, for you to understand and assess your audience and feel like this person is insecure, you know, that's on you to help them through that, to coach them through that, to pick positions that they're going to feel most comfortable, to go at the angle that they like the best. You know, it's a lot deeper.
But I think makeup is pretty much the same, because you're trying to expose the beauty of the person, right?
Absolutely.
And
even worse.
Yeah, and then you try to show them what is possible, how they can look like, or how you can enhance certain features on their faces. And I think some people, they're not comfortable with that, but I also think that when it comes to, let's say, headshots, right? And this is something I've noticed, that people have to, because you're changing their look, right? You change their daily appearance, I would say, and then they have to digest this, and they have to kind of accept the new me, right? And especially for headshots, you know, this image is going to represent them, right? So, and putting the makeup and all the stuff, you're just doing this whole transformation for them. And some people love that, but some people, I think, have a hard time to kind of accept that, right? And takes them time. I had remember a couple stories where people hate my images after the shoot, and then a week after, when they kind of like calm down and they look at them for a little bit longer, they're like, oh, now I can really see this whole thing from the different perspective. But at the first, looks like a slap in the face, right? And I think the same with the makeup. What is interesting, like, you know, can you look at yourself, and they like, you know, getting this kind of sparks in their eyes, and they're like, oh my god, this is really me. So this is kind of something which is pretty cool to see sometimes on those shoots, where you can do this completely different transformation for the person. Absolutely.
I agree, yeah.
So,
and I think that is the beauty in our job, in a sense, because sometimes we do get to push. You know, we push people outside of their comfort zones. When you say, you know, when the client originally looks at it, they might not fully, you know, love the way that I photographed them, but a week later, they like it. And it's because basically you push them out of their comfort zone. So at first it's like this shock, but then after, then they start to become more comfortable and maybe, you know, feel more liberated about the experience, in a sense.
Absolutely. So now I have a couple of questions regarding makeup for men. And this is something where a lot of photographers, especially headshot photographers, struggle with. And what I mean by that is, especially for the corporate work, you know, we getting hired to do this quick photo shoot for some CEO who's running from the lunch, and then, you know, he's all sweaty, and then he needs to stay at the front of the camera. So my question is there any products you would recommend from men, and if there's also any ways to men to prepare themselves for the headshot session? And my following question is, also, do you recommend makeup for men as well? Like, do this is the common thing these days, or this is something which is new? I know, like, whenever I go to, let's say, doing some shoots, let's say in TV, you know, the TV anchors, they do makeup for themselves, right? But I think the biggest struggle, what I found, is like the sweatiness. Like, you know, they always, some men have big issues with that, and on the photos we all know looks like horrible. It's like a something which takes hours to retouch, right? So is anything what you could recommend, or kind of like explore this a little bit more?
Yeah, great question. So I think that we're still not there yet in terms of makeup for men, but we've come a long way. I think that, you know, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, if a guy heard that, you know, we're going to put makeup on you, I think it would have been a lot more difficult back then. I think now that people are really warming up to the idea of it. And listen, I mean, you know, these sports anchors sometimes, like, I look at them, I'm like, I really like the color of lip they used on that guy. Like, but it's a bit extreme. Like, sometimes I see them on TV, and I'm like, it's a bit extreme. I think that there has to be like a happy medium. And it's like, we're not telling you, you know, put makeup on and go out, but I think that when relevant, it is important, again, to be polished in a picture and to just look really professional. It's a really important thing. So when I do makeup for men, what I do is I always start off with a mattifying primer. So obviously the skincare thing is still applicable here, where, an exfoliator at least, like the night before. Just exfoliate their skin, get rid of any of the dead skin sitting on top.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that their skin is moisturized. So
Mm-hmm.
I always carry moisturizer in my makeup kit, and I advise a lot of makeup artists to do that because when you work with dry skin, it's very hard. So moisturize, mattifying primer. The primer, it almost blurs the imperfections if
Mm-hmm.
you get the right one. So it'll help to fill in fine lines. It'll help to blur the pores, which you're saying that sometimes it's like quite sweaty and the sweat is coming from the pores. So it will help to kind of, fill those in and blur them. Translucent oil-free powder all over.
Mm-hmm.
That will also help to mattify. And the powder helps seal everything so that it lasts longer as well. The dryness from the powder helps to kind of soak everything up. And sometimes I will do a very, very, very light, warm contour just to kind of emphasize a little bit like around their hairline and their cheeks. It doesn't look like makeup per se. It almost looks like a little bit of a shadowing effect, but it gives a really nice complexion and lip balm.
So is there any specific products you would recommend for men? Because I've been dealing this for years and I couldn't find anything kind of I had some products, but I've heard that there's specific products for men, especially those products which can kill the sweat and this like how you call it, like some men getting this really oily skin which is really shiny on the photos and looks horrible. So would you recommend any kind of specific product for that type of stuff? So let's say photographers, like the client doesn't have to have a makeup, but photographer can have something in their bag. Okay, I have this client, I can give it something to them and they can kind of use it, right? I remember the one of the tip what I was giving to my clients: go to the washroom, take the toilet paper and tap it, right? Just to kind of, so that was the simple stuff. That works too, yeah.
Honestly, that works so well. But if you don't want to go to the bathroom, take toilet paper, always have blotting wipes. So Sephora, Shoppers Drug Mart, a lot of them, they'll have blotting wipes that you give, and it's almost like the material of like a tissue paper, like almost like a tissue paper at school that we used to use. It's almost kind of that texture, and they come in little blocks. So during your shoot, if the client gets super oily, you just get your blotting tissue and you just press it against their skin, and in like 2 seconds, the oil is off. A lot of them come also with like a powder on them. Like there's one that's like a rice powder that's on the blotting thing. So not only does it remove the oil, but it also helps to mattify with the powder. So blotting wipes are really important. Benefit has a really nice primer that's a Pores No More primer. It's called Pores No More. So that's the one that you would get and put all over the face to give the illusion of like a more flawless, kind of blurred face with the pores and stuff. So that one is awesome. And then you can just get like a translucent powder. So this is one that's not going to leave any color or anything. They often come white. It's a very finely milled powder. So when it goes on, it just kind of just really absorbs into the skin, and it also helps to kill shine. Those would be my 3 top tips.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to just go a little bit more technical right now because I want to talk a little bit about contouring. And the main reason I'm talking about it is when it comes to headshot photography, one of the biggest, I would say, challenges for a lot of photographers is getting this dimension into their face, right? So they want to have this amazing dimension where, the face features are kind of exposed, especially a lot of them, and it's, again, more from kind of photographer perspective, is they're using flat light where, there's no shadows, it's like a blast of light, and they need this some kind of contouring on their faces. And a lot of, I would say, photographers, they don't really understand what contouring is. So I would like to kind of talk to you, if you could just kind of talk a little bit about it, what the contouring does, what is the process, just the kind of basic information so the photographers can understand how much of an impact good contouring on someone's face can do to their, images.
I couldn't agree more when you say like how much of an impact that it does on a client. It is a huge impact. contour and highlight is like, it's really incredible. I've done tests before where I have not done highlight and contouring on half my face, and I've done it on the other half, and the dimension that you speak of is, it's just insane. So basically the idea of highlight and contour is to bring out some features and to kind of blur away some features. So we really get that gorgeous three-dimension look. So highlight is using a lighter color. So that's a lot of times, underneath the eye as a concealer to brighten. The beard area, I call it the beard area. So in this whole area, it's going to be lighter. And then the contour is going to usually be like around the hairline, top of the ear to the corner of the mouth to really accentuate the cheekbones and make them pop. So as soon as you put that darkness there, it creates a shadow so that everything else kind of pops more. So the idea is playing with contrast between the light and the dark to give you that three-dimension so that you don't end up with just a flat face. So the face has character. It brings out the natural features of the client. It gives them features that they don't have. So it can accentuate gorgeous cheekbones, and it can also give cheekbones to someone that doesn't have it by the contrast of color.
Perfect. And this is something which is so important. And one of the coolest thing what I actually, like whenever I do workshops for headshot photography, I always show a model without contouring and without it. And it's like a day and night. Like you just completely change the shape of the faces. So how you kind of determine, looking at someone, what needs to be done? Because I know a lot of those things comes from the experience. But for someone who doesn't have experience, like, is there any tips you would like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, the first thing I would do is study a face chart, highlight, and contour. This is so important to all artists because makeup artists are visual learners. It's one thing for me to explain it, and it's another thing for someone to actually see it. So if you just Google contour and highlight face charts, they'll pop up, and basically they tell you that if someone has this shape of a face, this is where you would contour, and it places exactly what you need to do. So if you study those, it'll help so much when you actually get a client that has a face shape like that, because automatically you'll know what to do. If there's just like a very quick way to explain it, contour helps things that are big get smaller. So to use the forehead as an example, if someone has a very small forehead, you're not going to contour because it's just going to take more away, right? You want that light to stay there so it shows. If someone has a bigger forehead, or like, me, I guess medium to big, I can afford to contour. Basically, the dark is going to take away from my forehead, and the light is the one that's going to be a little bit more visible. So if it is in relation to like big and small, I think that sometimes makes it more understandable. So if a person has a very wide face, which is a bigger face that way, then you're going to want to contour the sides of it to make it appear smaller, so only the highlighted part shows. And similarly, if it's a long face, you're going to contour the top, the forehead, and you're going to contour the chin that's going to go down and around here to give the illusion of a shadow. So again, it kind of helps to balance the face. And contour and highlighting is really about that. It's achieving balance.
I think even photographers should study this, because that also kind of can teach them how to kind of see the face and then how to photograph it, right?
Yeah,
so is there any actually books or any courses you would recommend for those type of knowledge? Is there anything out there? Probably would have to Google it and try to find something, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so much out there, but like highlighting, contouring it's a big thing right now. So there's so much information that's accessible to anyone that wants to learn. Like as soon as you write how to highlight and contour, like you'll just get flooded with knowledge.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
so
go
ahead. So no, go ahead. I just interrupt you. Sorry.
I think I was just gonna add on to what I just said, but basically, yeah, the knowledge was out there for anyone that wants to learn, and there's lots of courses and stuff like that on it. I think that's all.
Perfect. So my last question to you today is, if you could just tell me maybe 6, let's go with 6 factors of a good makeup. Like what is important when it comes to makeup? And again, if you could just kind of maybe take the photography angle, like I know you're looking at this whole thing from completely different perspective, but looking from kinds, let's say from the photography, like, because you do a lot of photo shoots too, right? So you can also, this is what is
Yeah.
fascinating about you, that you not only well communicating with photographers, but also I found you can really read what needs to be done, right? And again, that comes from experience and knowledge and all this stuff.
And
um,
from caring. I think that when you care so much, like I'm an individual that cares maybe too much about
mhm,
about my clients. I don't think there's a such thing as caring too much, but when you care a lot about how someone feels, like you're going to be very cautious at assessing the situation, knowing how to deal with it because you care so much. But thank you, that's so sweet. Thank you so much for saying that.
mhm,
I think that from a photography angle, what is important when with makeup is like you first and foremost, the shininess is a huge thing, I think.
mhm,
So for it to get technical, like actual makeup stuff, so like someone has to know how to do makeup for photo shoot, but it's going to be different than in person. When you're
mhm,
doing it for photography and for a photo shoot, you really have to make sure that it's not shiny in the areas that it doesn't need to be, that it's flawless, that it's blended, that
mhm,
you're choosing looks that aren't going to weigh the clients down. So that I'm not going to do a look that you're going to shoot, you're just going to feel like it's heavy, where
mhm,
sometimes if someone has really small eyes, I'm not going to go too dark, because when you take the picture, you're not going to see their eyes, it's just going to be
mhm.
really heavy. So how to make the client's features really pop to work so that it captures really well in photography. Do you need specifics in terms of that, like in what I'm referring to, or did you have like specific, more
Just
specific questions?
it's just I would say the things which, yeah, like the shyness, I think is huge, right?
The shyness, number one,
It's
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 huge.
one of the
Yeah,
things
I agree.
which a lot of us struggle, and I think we've talked about it today a little bit, especially with the men, and then coming to the shoot sweaty and all the stuff, and then whenever the light hits, the sweatiness just creates those crazy highlights, and just looks bad, right? But I just want to talk a little bit about, like, what in your perspective also kind of is important for makeup, right? So for example, like the eyes, the lips, and I know this whole thing sometimes has to kind of go together, because heavy, let's say, eyes and no lips done, gonna just looks completely off, right? So I just want to kind of hear from you, like, what is the kind of the base, the perfect package when it comes to the makeup? Like, what would you include into this package?
Yeah, and I think that the client's features are
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the answers.
Okay.
So it's hard, and that's the interesting thing about makeup. It's like one plus one doesn't always equal
Yes.
two. Like
Mm-hmm.
every client comes with their own equation.
Okay.
Basically, skin texture, skin color, eye shape. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone has big eyes, if someone has a big lip, like how am I going to balance that? How am I going to accentuate it? And I think that, yeah, just like really achieving a fresh look that is the client, makes them kind of feel their best and
Mm-hmm.
still feel like themselves, without overly doing it where their features are going to get lost when their photo is taken.
Perfect. You know what? And I think that's a great answer, because you cannot really apply kind of one thing to everybody. Everyone is different. Everyone has kind of different features, and
Yeah.
then I think, yeah, like that's, and I think a lot of photographers also need to understand that you cannot just slap it one type of makeup on everybody, because it's not going to work. And having great makeup artists who can recognize this, I think that's just a recipe for the success, right?
I agree, and I think it also depends on the client, what they do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're working with a client that's an interior designer, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and she's known to be edgy and fun, and her page and her style is that.
Mm-hmm.
When she comes to get her makeup done, that needs to be taken into consideration,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to take her picture and she's going to use her picture on social media platforms or on her website or wherever, and it has to match her style.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to do like a really basic look on someone that I know has that spunk, has that
Mm-hmm.
edge. It reflects in her work. So it's really important to, again, assess your audience. What is the nature of, what it is that you're doing? Okay, a headshot. Okay, who is it for? What
Mm-hmm.
is this person like? What do they represent? Understanding the needs, and then you can customize like a makeup look that's going to work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes you can play around with color, but for the most part, I think, you got to be really careful with the color part too. That's another
Mm-hmm.
thing. So it's like shininess is a thing. And then also the colors, the tones that you use, are they going to work well? Is it going to be flattering?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another, big
Perfect
thing. And again, depending on the client.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the conversation. I think I've learned a lot, even though I've been doing this for quite a bit. And I always been interested in the makeup part, because when I've started using makeup artists for my sessions, like completely changed my work, and I could see the huge difference and how much the makeup artists, how much they can bring to the photo shoot, and how much they can kind of take the images to completely different levels. So I always, as I said, admire your work. I wish I could work more often with you. I know you're super busy.
Soon enough.
Yes,
we're gonna.
Absolutely. So the last thing what I would like to kind of ask you, like, could you tell me where people can find you? I know you have new YouTube channel with some kind of interesting content. Just red carpet, let's roll for you, and just kind of tell us what's happening in your life, and how people can find you, and how people can learn from you.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for this time with this podcast, for all the great questions. I think that you really ask questions that are going to help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I admire about you is that you really kind of respect everyone's trade and their craft, and you've always really understood the value of makeup, and I'm so grateful for that as a makeup artist, that you like really get it, and that you always want to support us and work together. So thank you for that. Yes, I just launched the YouTube channel a couple of months ago. I'm super excited about that. It was kind of this thing that I've always wanted to do, but it just didn't feel like the right time, or I didn't have the right support system. And so finally I launched it. And I always say, as much as I love doing makeup, it's such a great platform, but I believe that it was a platform that was given to me for a little bit of a bigger purpose. As an empath, I'm really all about helping others, and really kind of helping people see their own potential. So the YouTube channel that I have will hopefully, it kind of mixes my two worlds of, my love for makeup and my love for people together. And I just really want to inspire and motivate anyone that I can. And so that my YouTube channel can be found. I think all my information you can find on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is at Mariam, Mariam _ Akbar, Akbar. You'll find my website, my email, my phone number, and my YouTube channel.
Perfect. And I'll link all those informations anyway, so people can easily find you, especially for people from Calgary. I know the demand is going to be hopefully growing soon, as soon as this pandemic will be over. And I will be looking forward to work with you. And thank you for all the information, all the feedback, all this amazing advice, especially for photography community. And as I mentioned before, everyone who's shooting headshots, they should have makeup artists on site on all of the shoots, because it's always not only helpful, but also just brings new flavor to their work, and makes
100%.
clients more happy. I found
right.
that's really kind of can elevate this whole thing to a completely different level. Okay, thank you, Mariam, for chatting with me. Stay in touch, and then we'll be chat again very soon.
Sounds good. Bye, everybody.